Happy Wednesday. We are here on this. It is glorious in Florida. I'm sorry, those of you who are still snowbound, but quite glorious here today. Um, Welcome to the WonderMama Coffee Chat. This coffee chat was created for parents who lead. We wanted to create a space where we could have grounded conversations with thought leaders and incredible coaches and authors and speakers to just kind of show you and share what is out here in this very loud space. And so today I am so excited to introduce somebody who has been dear to me for a long time, Tara Gardner. Um, we met probably, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago.
Wow, yeah.
And Tara as a client of mine, and now she is an author, a life and mindset coach at Open Doors Mindset, and the owner. I'm going to write because I couldn't get it right when I told her I was going to say it. She is the owner and master pastry culinarian behind Sweet Tower novelty cakes and desserts, and she lives right here in my town. So excited. Tara, thank you so much for coming. Um,
Thanks
and
for having me.
yes, I'm so excited because you jumped in when we had an emergent cancellation with Natalie Kim, who was supposed to be here with us today, and she is going to still come. We're just going to see her on March 25th, and you were so gracious and willing to just jump in, and I'm excited to have you because, well, I have so much respect for you. Um, One of the things that we found during our time together was that we had a very similar experience on our in our childhoods and in our healing. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, what today we're going to talk about, kind of navigating our generational stuff, our generational healing, the little girls that we healed, the women inside of ourselves that we healed. Um, and before we were talking, one of the things we talked about was that both of us had mothers who were looking for something or someone to lead them who didn't know how to lead themselves. And I feel like that's one of the things that we have in both of us is that we've learned to lead ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So I have a couple of questions that I put together for us. And Tara, your work is rooted in lived experience like mine, trauma, single parenting, financial stress. What made you first realize that awareness was the foundation where you could start?
Oh, wow. You run into a brick wall enough times, you have you gotta kind of just look up and say, why am I here again? And eventually I just started to kind of just recognize some patterns in my, not just in life around me, but like in me. And like I had to slow down and realize that I was doing a lot of reacting, you know, especially when it comes to parenting. Like when you have kids, your DNA changes, your brain changes, how you see life just changes. And um, before then, I was very much in my head, living alone in my head, like just absorbing what I've been through and kind of just tackling day by day. But when you have kids and you have like humans who are looking at you every day, who are needing every day, you can't just, lose it on on your kids. Like you can lose it on a stranger in the store and who you think you'll never see again, right? And so I started to realize, like my kids are much older now. They're 23 and 18. And but when they were younger, I held in a lot. Like I used to yell a lot. And I remember when I started realizing, like my kids were very young, and I was just sitting to myself one day and I'm like, why am I so angry? Why am I always so tense? And I remember making a conscious decision to just kind of slow down before I respond. And I remember one day, I forget what happened, but like my one of my kids came up to me with something that I think they broke something or something like that. And I didn't respond yet. I was prepared to be like, it's fine, whatever. But I could see that they expected me to yell. And that like broke something in me. And I was like, wait a minute, like this can't be the mom that I am. And so that changed a lot. Um, I'm not gonna say I changed for my kids or that I'm healing for my kids, but I mean you can't really separate them as a mom, right? Like I did a lot of healing over many years and I'm continuing healing right now. And that affects, how you raise your kids and the experience they have, experiencing you as their mom.
Oh my gosh. That is so important. What you just said is one, that you're still healing. We're all still
Mhm.
healing. This is a lifetime. We have a lifetime to do this. But one of the other things that you said was really important was that your kids were expecting you to react. Instead, you
Yeah.
showed up responsive. And that is learning in action, but also them too. You
Yeah.
felt that shift and they felt that shift at the same time. That's powerful. And so not only are you learning, but they're learning. I
Yeah.
I used to spank my kids. I mean, I don't think my youngest got one. Maybe he did. I don't think so. And he's 25, but I remember this was before we learned about gentle parenting or conscious parenting or whatever. But I remember going, why am I hitting him? Um, and I know we could go down a whole wormhole, but with that because it's both things. But what I'd really like for us to talk about, if you don't mind, is this. We talked about this 3 years ago, but you wrote this book, Happy Little Trees. And
Yeah.
your reason for naming this took me right back to those quiet moments because Bob Ross was he was a safe space for me. His gentle voice and his beautiful creativity. Oh my God. Hello, Latasha. Nice to see you. Um, his he was a safe space. And he wasn't
Mhm.
a man that looked like me or my family.
Yeah.
And um, so it was something different. And so I really like to talk about this if you're comfortable. Because
Sure.
oof, um, earlier I talked about our moms and how our moms didn't feel from the story that from what I read is that your mom was also looking for something, a safe space for herself. And
Yeah.
she invited somebody with a really big personality and really big plans and really big ideas into your life, into her life. And she let him take over. And that happened to me as well. And what happened in there was something I believe that I never let happen to in my life. Um,
Mhm.
and can you say a little bit about the experience as you have been healing from all of the parts of that, what you find in yourself now?
Yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, it is a constant, right? I mean, I initially started writing journals. Like that's part of my release when I go through a lot of things. And as I started to get older, I realized I also had gaps in my memory from things that I guess that I know my mind protected me from. And so when I started journaling, part of my mindset behind that was I don't know how long I'm going to have this memory because I didn't have any control over it. I didn't know how this works, right? So I started to just write what I remembered. And as I would write, and as I would read what I wrote, and as I got it out of me onto paper, it was almost it that in itself was a part of the healing because it's like you're writing this actually did happen. This is not just a thought that popped in your head or popped out of your head. Um, and I mean, it's a constant. It's a constant realization of, yes, I went through this, but this does not define me. What can I learn from this situation? And I have made a lot of choices in my life to maybe overly protect me or overly protect my children. And that's another level of healing, right? Like I don't necessarily have to protect my children from the monsters that were in my life, figuratively or not. Maybe theirs are different, but that's often what we do as parents is it's like, I went through these things, and so I'm just gonna lock you in this little box. I'm gonna put you in my pocket and you can't do anything. Um, but that's not fair, right? And so it is just a constant healing of I have a choice. I rely very heavily on my faith, and that gets me through a lot because I have to release the power. I don't have the power to heal on my own, and so I probably just went on a tangent. I answered your
No,
question.
no.
But it's a constant. Like I've even as my kids have gotten older, I will notice certain things in them. Um, and I'll kind of mirror it back to myself like I'll even say I trained them to be this way, so I can't let this upset me. But and that is the part that I think is so tricky when it comes to parenting, right? Is that I can say, yeah, when my kids were younger, I used to yell, but then I stopped yelling. But we can't just assume that since I stopped yelling, that they should just know that this is you now, right? There's a whole process. One, they will have to relearn who you're trying to be as you're figuring that out, which is going to continue to change. And then two, they have to unlearn what they've learned. And a lot of that is subconscious and already in there. And so it's a process of, it comes down to like, you know, expecting of not saying to do or not do and then not being the example of that, if that makes sense, and just having grace. Like I needed grace from my children for being that mom who was always agitated because I took on too much because I'm trying to like cloud my, day so that I didn't feel. A lot of that was I just didn't want to feel. So I need to be busy. I need to always be doing something. I come home from work, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean. My kids are fed. They have a roof over their shoulders. I'm going to get up and do it tomorrow, and I don't have time. You know what I mean? In the meantime, I'm looking at them like, oh, my kids, I love my kids. And they're looking at me like, you like, you know what I'm saying? But it's just a matter of slowing. For me, it's a matter of just slowing down and taking it all in. Like I can only do in this minute what I have the ability to do. I have no control over anything outside of myself. And there's a lot of unlearning that you have to do when you have any sort of like trauma or hard experiences. You have to unlearn what that feels like so that you're not acting out of emotion because our emotions are so super important. Like they're there for a reason, they're there to tell us something. But if you just let them take the reins, I mean, it is just a roller coaster ride. So it's a matter of, yes, I can teach my brain something new and learn to do something different with my brain, but don't expect the emotions to just get on board because the emotions are going to be like, nope, you're telling me to do that. because that's what you want to do now. But no, I remember this and I want to do this. And so it's finding the balance mentally, spiritually, and physically, to how you want to move forward. It's a choice, a daily choice.
That's a lot of parts. And it's so powerful. And so let me just kind of break it back down. So when you are struggling with something really hard, you take it to the paper. You take it to your journal because that's where you can see the patterns and feel them. But you also talked about really understanding that while you're growing and as you're creating this shift, your children also have to, or really anybody in your life, right, that's
Mhm.
experiencing you is experiencing a different you every minute. And so when you're going from reactive to responsive, it's a shock. And they're expecting someone else, or they're expecting this person to leave in a minute, right? And that other person may show up again. And
Mhm.
you go, oh, wait, I don't want to be that. And so it's the noticing that you're talking
Exactly.
about. So healing from that sort of generational conditioning that we have um, starts with noticing that there's something. And for you, landing on the paper and sharing this incredible story, Happy Little Trees. And really, it's really very vulnerable and incredibly beautiful. And I think also maybe good for your children to know where you started, because who you're going to end up as is, well, you're going to grow until you're not here anymore, as are we all, if that's our intention, right? Um, so one of the things that you talked about was parenting your inner child, realizing that she was in the driver's seat, that she was driving everything. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I've been in therapy for years. Like I am the number one person to say, yes, definitely go to a therapist like you would go to a doctor for anything. And I just, as an example, my therapist has been my therapist for almost 9 years. I've seen the same thing. I've been lucky in that. But I remember several years back, I was talking to her and I said, I don't get it. I feel like I have so much fear in me, and I feel like I am just trying to protect this little child in me. And she just looked up at me and she was like, Tara, you think you're trying to protect that child, but that child is calling all the shots.
Mm,
And when I looked at it that way, I mean, that was, if I could say like an aha moment, that was definitely an aha moment. Because in that moment, I was like, so would I let a 5-year-old tell me how to live my life? You know what I mean? Because that's basically what's happening. No, you can't do that. That's not safe. No, you can't go there. That's not safe. And so that changed a lot on my perspective of just how I am running my own life. Yeah, and so I talk about a little bit in my book about how and this was just a couple of years ago. I decided to write a letter to my younger self. And I just said, I'm going to write a letter to little Tara and I'm going to give her her walking papers. I'm going to thank her nicely for all that she's tried to do. And I'm just going to tell her, like, I'll take it from here. And so I wrote a letter saying all the things that I feel like I needed to hear when I was young, but didn't. I wrote it. I also read it to myself. I recorded myself reading it to myself and I watched it, all of which were very surprisingly, I won't say painful, but like I felt it. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like, yeah, you're going to have surgery, we'll numb you, but you're going to be wide awake from it. That's, if I had to compare it to something, that's what it. And so like writing it was hard and reading it was hard. Um, Watching it was hard, but like the next day, and the only way I can explain this is the very next day I woke up and I remember that there's like usually a busyness or like a noise that was almost that had become necessary in the background of my mind. Like I always had to be doing multiple things at a time. I always had to be, you know what I mean? And the next day it was quiet. It was almost like little Tara wasn't like, cutting up in the room, making all this noise like a toddler would be. It sounds weird, but like it was quiet. Like I had kind of just a peace since then. It's not complete. Every now and then I have to go back to that. And like every time I do go back to it, the emotion is different, not less, like it's still very valid, but I can see based on my emotional response how my healing process is going. And so that was a huge turning point for me.
Thank you for sharing how your healing process is going.
Mm-hmm.
It is. There's so many layers, and sometimes it gets frustrating, like, oh, I thought I already did this part. And you did. It's just another layer to that part
Yeah.
that you have to do. And I had a similar experience where I didn't give her walking papers. I was able to go into a hypnosis visualization practice with a really incredible coach, and I brought her back with me. So I just needed her to skip it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make all that happened go away, but what it does is it gives me the opportunity to choose. And so I just love the many ways that we can land in healing, that we can choose, and it's choosing responsiveness over reactivity. It's choosing to lead your own life. It's choosing to show your children what healing looks like and that vulnerability of saying, I am trying to do this better every day. And so you're going to see a little bit. So when you change and they're like, yeah, this is what I want it to look like. And so this is this is the next goal. And that's the part that our children can can begin to count on when they start seeing real momentum and healing. So I love this. I love this so much. So those of you, we have some incredible people with us here today. They're sending love and hearts, and thank you so much. We Several of these people have their own podcasts. They have women empowerment events, and I know now that they know about you, you're going to be hearing from some really incredible people. And I'm so glad to have you back in my life here because you are an incredible soul. And I know that everyone who gets to experience you, your knowledge, your journey, your story, happy little trees. Can you see that? I don't have this weird thing. I don't know even know what it is. Happy little trees. It looks like this. It's just a small read, small, powerful read. So definitely get yourself a copy. Follow Tara on Facebook. And we are going to stop this live stream as we do every Wednesday and go into a private conversation with the WonderMama members. And so, one, if this was good, this was important to you, please come back next Wednesday. We'll have an incredible guest, Lindsay Stottle, who is going to share her experience with us, and she has an incredible message. And um, join us inside the WonderMama group. This is where the work happens in community and in faith. So thank you all so much. We're going to stop the live stream and we'll see you next Wednesday.